have raised an eyebrow or two, I beg your pardon. And we'll talk about that as well as Modi's counteroffensive and a few other things. Please like this video. Shekhar Iyer's words are worth gold. And he has always got a very objective view at things that play out. So let's welcome our guest of the evening, Shekhar Iyer ji. Shekhar ji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskaram, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. And greetings to all your viewers.
Thank you very much, sir. The first question for you is, Modi has been hitting back, whether it is Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. He has been taking on the opposition. He is upping the ante. I can see that, Shekhar ji. Now, the problem or the challenge before him is he has got, multiple state elections coming up and must-win states. I can think of two, Tripura and Karnataka. How much of this is going to help him, you think? He was touring Tripura today. So maybe you can start with Tripura and then you can go on to Karnataka, sir.
Indeed, Shreyaji, we saw how the Prime Minister replied to the opposition, both in the Lok Sabha and in the Rajya Sabha. And Rajya Sabha, I think that was, I would say, a kind of a parting shot or a parting challenge. In the sense, he says, look, how you people are all ganged up against me. I'm an one man on the side. And in effect saying, that it's people who have brought me here and it's people who will remove me. In effect saying that you may bring up charges of proximity to Adani and things like that, but go and win elections to get me out. In a sense, the challenge to the opposition is, if their current campaign against the Prime Minister using issues like this Adani share crash, if you wanted to move ahead, if you really want to make an impact, then you'll have to get the BJP defeated, in the elections, not just in Lok Sabha elections of 2024. Why not in the run-up of all these assembly elections that are there, starting with, of course, Tripura and then later Karnataka. And there are two other states, Meghalaya and Nagaland, where BJP is not the principal player. So in effect, the Prime Minister is making it very clear that a defeat for him in the election is only the thing that he sees as a challenge and not the current campaign on Adani issue. So after his, rather fiery speech, and that had a lot to do with the way the opposition was not letting him speak, raising slogans, and in order to just drown his reply, because in the Lok Sabha where he had, he was much more forthcoming and they heard him in silence. Then they walked out and some of them stayed back also, and where the Prime Minister was in his elements. But here in Rajya Sabha, I think you could see the Prime Minister really, very angry with the opposition behavior and giving that challenge. So that brings us to a situation where it's very important for the BJP to win these elections, both Tripura and Karnataka in the first half of the year. And in the next later half, you're going to have Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Telangana, and Rajasthan. So I see a very tremendous challenge for the BJP, because Karnataka, we have seen that what I get to hear is the BJP's chances are improving because of some correctional measures, but it still remains a challenge. And with the 224 member house, they will have to win at least 122 seats. So how are they going to do it? And I believe the intelligence that the BJP has gathered in terms of political intelligence is, if the Prime Minister were to undertake a very vigorous campaign in Karnataka, then they can add up to even 10 to 15% votes, because there is a separate, voter quotient for the Prime Minister. So therefore, one is going to see a lot more forays into Karnataka by the Prime Minister, and it is going to be a very tough battle. And the fact that the Prime Minister has set this kind of, has thrown the gauntlet, as one would say, asking the opposition to actually defeat him, or rather defeat the BJP in these elections. So I'm just wondering, why did the Prime Minister, set this kind of a high benchmark to prove that these Adani charges have nothing to do with him or with the government? And after that, you are seeing, that Prime Minister's speech has put all the opposition, the ruling parties, the ministers, the leaders on a sort of a new high. They feel that, look, if the Modi has thrown this challenge, it means he's sure that the BJP is going to do very well. But it's very tough because from the ground reports we get from Karnataka, all the civic issues, say even in a city like Bangalore, the other things are coming up again and again, which goes to show the poor quality of governance in the last 5 years. And I do not know, I mean, particularly the Bangalore, the work of the corporation there, which has been such a bad shape, and followed by, of course, attempts by Bommai, who is trying to correct some of the ill effects of the last 5 years. I mean, the last few years when Yediyurappa was there and subsequently. But one positive sign is, I gather, that Yediyurappa has decided to throw his full lot. I don't know what is the deal, but I think probably his son will contest elections and perhaps will be fully involved in this exercise. That's a good news for the BJP supporters, because it was felt that Yediyurappa may not fully. Now, coming to Tripura, Tripura is a case where we saw the campaign 2 days ago. Prime Minister was in Tripura, rather yesterday, and I mean he made it. And the way the Prime Minister speaks in elections is completely different. Normally, when you see the Prime Minister address speeches, there he's in his own political elements, where he openly said, asked the voters, do you want to get back to that era when the communists, or even before that, the Congress was involved in a lot of corruption, and the system there is what was also common in Bengal, what is called chanda. Chanda means, subscription, which the party leaders would collect for everything, for every economic activity in Tripura, under the Marxist rule and previously under the Congress rule. So, Prime Minister said, think of those days, trying to rejig their memory to what was happening in that state under 27 years of Marxist rule. And so I can sense from these, fiery speeches that the Prime Minister is making in the election-bound states, I think the challenge is very serious. And how they overcome it and what is the message, that is going to give. Because a single defeat, it has always been, for the BJP since it came to power 2014, that BJP has to win every election to prove that it's riding high, or it's having an edge. And for the Congress, they have to just win one election, and there are sufficient ecosystem to make it appear as if it's a great thing happening. We have seen it in the case of Bharat Jodo Yatra. This one particular yatra of 3,000 kilometers was made as big deal. Rahul is in his elements, and a lot of media reports were generated to that effect. But if you look at Rahul Gandhi on the day the Prime Minister delivered his reply to the Lok Sabha, he looked slumped in his chair, and it's from the physical appearance, it appeared as if Rahul Gandhi feels probably his yatra has come to a knot, because the political battle before Rahul Gandhi is where it is. Where the Bharat Jodo Yatra may have inspired some of his rank and file to get about doing something, but the leadership is lacking. So you can see the crisis that Congress is facing also. But at the same time, Karnataka, at least what I get to hear from Congress leaders in Karnataka, is that they consider it's a low-hanging fruit because of a lot of anti-incumbency issues. I just mentioned about civic issues. So we can see that the battle. This is one battle where the BJP is uphill, and the Congress think it's a low-lying fruit. But the differences among the leaders, how D.K. Shivkumar, how Siddaramaiah and their men, their supporters, and there is a third factor, or the third player, that is the Mallikarjun Kharge himself, who is also, if things come to a situation where the Congress gets a majority, and he may also throw his hat in the ring and say, why not make me the chief minister? Because Karnataka has never had a Dalit chief minister, apart from the fact there are other Dalit leaders like Parameshwara and others.
Yes, indeed. And it will be a very interesting battle. Karnataka, definitely, the Congress thinks that it has a chance. I think, sir, the majority is 113. If 224 is the number of seats, then 113 would be the majority. I think you said 123.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 224. It is
113.
Yes, 113. Yes, halfway bar.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Just wanted to set the record straight, sir. No problem. Viewers, there is one interesting development: the appointment of Justice Abdul Nazeer as the governor of Andhra Pradesh. Before we start attributing political motives, the feedback from those who have actually had cases heard in front of him have said that this man is a fine judge, and he has always conducted himself very, very properly. And to just attribute motives that he is being given this appointment or this post because of his role in Ram Mandir would be kind of ignoring a lot of good stuff he has done as a judge. So I think I would like Shekhar Iyer ji to dwell on this particular topic and tell us what he thinks happened, sir.
Well, to say that the Justice Nazir has become Supreme Court, I mean, has become a governor only because he was on the bench that gave the unanimous judgment on Ayodhya case, the disputed place being handed over to the Hindus for construction of Ram temple, would actually be a disservice in the sense that you cannot judge a person who was on the bench and try to emphasize the fact that he belongs to the minority community, he is from Karnataka, therefore with elections in Karnataka, the Modi has thought of this or the government has thought of this appointment. I do not think so, because he was also part of the triple talaq bench, where they refused to, which they upheld the law on triple talaq, where Muslim women were subjected to the atrocity of their men just declaring talaq, 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 and walking out of marriage so easily. And after the passing of the law, the number of cases have come down to a great extent because of the fear of the law, and also it has awakened the Muslim women to their rights and to guard against being abused. It has served its purpose to a great extent. Now, given that the merits of each of those cases, after all, Ayodhya case was largely dependent on the archaeological survey of India's report. That was there, the judgment, and everyone knows that the judgment was probably written by the current Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Chandrachud, and who did not, because it was intended to be a unanimous judgment, and the author had to be kept in anonymity for the simple reason to show that this judgment has come out of the Supreme Court examining all aspects of the case, and to ensure that there is harmony and amity among the communities for the sake of our common future. So that's the best thing that the Supreme Court would have done in the situation, because any other judgment, any other verdict would have actually thrown the country into turmoil. Now, given this situation, Justice Nazir also played an important role. The fact that he belonged to the minority committee, and it was important that he was on that bench, lest any section feels that this was one-sided judgment because judges all belong to one community. Now, given that, it's very unfortunate. The Congress party in particular is trying to make an issue out of this. Here, can you imagine, for the sake of their politics, they are willing to even talk about the community of this judge, and therefore claiming that there was something wrong with that judgment. Now, if you are not willing to approve Supreme Court judgment, and at the same time you are worried that the temple will come up in January, and you are worried about what will happen to the opposition parties, BJP will claim credit, the devotees will start going to Ayodhya, then after that there will be a kind of a momentum which the BJP may capture. Now, what prevented the Congress from embracing the verdict in full? What prevented the Congress from accepting the fact that the Ayodhya issue had to be settled for once for all? Now, this is the mistake the Congress is making, and it's very unfortunate, because if you start questioning like that, one will look back at the kind of honors that were done to several judges. We have seen it before. People who headed the commissions of inquiry as Supreme Court judges into the 1984 riots were later rewarded as chairman of the National Human Rights Commission. Some of them were sent here, there, one would not like to cast aspersion on people who have served on the bench and then say they got this because of that. I think that will not be correct, and that's a disservice to them, and it is also, I would say, lowering the dignity of the judiciary. So therefore, I think this has, but all these appointments in particular, or all the other appointments, apart from the fact that Justice Nazeer is going to Andhra Pradesh, the other appointments have kept in mind the political interests of the BJP. And you can see that the election-bound states of, say, Meghalaya as a new governor, Nagaland as a new governor, these are the two states that are going to elections in February 27th. Tripura goes to polls on February the 16th. Now, and also you can see that Tamil Nadu has got three governors. The BJP, three governors are from Tamil Nadu. There was 𝙒𝙗𝙖𝙦𝙤 earlier. Now you have C.P. Radhakrishnan, who is from Coimbatore. And then you have got Tamilisai Soundararajan, who remains in Telangana. Now, what is the significance of this? Is the fact that with these BJP leaders, being the seniority they are, Annamalai gets a free hand in Tamil Nadu. Once he finishes his task in Karnataka as co-in charge, then his full concentration will be Tamil Nadu to prepare the BJP for the Lok Sabha elections. And this time, they have kept some target. They are not disclosing it. But I believe out of the 39 Lok Sabha seats, they intend to at least to work on, say, at least winning 5 or 6 seats, to begin with, to have a target and to work for it. Now, with these leaders away, 𝙒𝙗𝙦𝙦 was one of the senior most BJP leader. He became governor a couple of years ago, and then Tamilisai was also similarly shifted out, so that there is a transition in leadership in Tamil Nadu. So this is as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned. Now, apart from that, the fact that the governor, say for instance, if you take the case of Gulabchand Kataria. Gulabchand Kataria is the leader of the opposition in the Rajasthan Assembly today. He is actually a very senior BJP leader. There has been problem between Kataria and Vasundhara Raje, in a sense, by asking him to take up a governor's role, because Kataria has been shifted to Assam. So that means more younger younger leaders can move up the ladder, because Rajasthan is going to go to the polls end of this year, and BJP is very, very confident this time because of the confusion in the Congress and the never-ending battle between Ashok Gehlot and Sachin Pilot. Rajasthan looks, as I would say, a low-hanging fruit, definitely for the BJP. But they need to keep their house in order and have a lot of, actions that are seen as done in unity, because BJP's problem in Rajasthan is Vasundhara versus the rest. So with Kataria moving out, that's a very significant thing that they have done. And also, you can see that Maharashtra has got a governor who is a very seasoned politician, that is Ramesh Bais, who belongs to Chhattisgarh, and he has been shifted from, he is going to Maharashtra. And I think that's a very important change, and because Maharashtra has had problems with Bhagat Singh Koshyari. Koshyari was considered a very senior leader from Uttarakhand, but then his pronouncements led to a situation where the BJP had to be on the defensive, and BJP's alliance partners were on the defensive, whether he talked about Chhatrapati Shivaji or about other leaders, other icons of Maharashtra. It was quite a difficulty quite a challenge for the BJP leaders, and he was sounded very at time to avoid the controversies. But with Mumbai civic elections approaching, and also civic elections to the bigger cities in Maharashtra, whether it is Pune, Aurangabad, Nasik, or Nagpur, I think the BJP decided that Koshyari had to, take retirement. That's why he resigned. His resignation was accepted, and we all know the Prime Minister himself conveyed, the centre's desire that he should step aside. So that's also very important development. And also, sir, Ladakh will have a new, lieutenant governor, and that is very important because Ladakh has of late has been facing problems. Initially, when Article 370 was removed, people of Ladakh were very happy. But we have been getting reports from Ladakh that some of the local population, there has been a lot of unrest. People have been agitating. They have been claiming there is a delay in the promises made to the people of Ladakh when Article 370 was removed. So you need a very seasoned person to go there, and you have Brigadier B.D. Mishra, who has gone from Arunachal Pradesh. He is moving to Ladakh. So one can see that the changes are being made with the eye on sorting out the local problems, seeing the electoral challenges of the BJP ahead in the months ahead, and also, putting new people in the governor's chair in the larger interest of the political interest of the BJP, and as well as to face situations where if they are headed for elections, what happens if there is a house and the governor roles becomes very prominent.
Only when we hear Shekhar Iyer do we realize what a delicate balancing exercise it was, appointing all these governors, moving some people down out, and then gently recognizing the sensitivity of some of the state elections and so on and so forth. So that's one thing that I thought was very commendable on part of the Modi government. And Shekharji, the about Justice Abdul Nazeer. See, one thing that we all should remember is whenever justice is served, it should not only be fair but appear to be fair. This appear to be fair is where when Nazeer sits on the judgment in Triple Talaq or in Ram Mandir, you understand that this is not one community, it is not one section of the population, but India, which said that Ram Mandir has to be put there. So let's move on to the next topic, sir. James Bond. Ajit Doval. It sounds better when I say James Bond. Ajit Doval ji has been on a terrific tour of United States, United Kingdom, and Russia. We touched upon this a little bit yesterday when we talked to Sri Delhi R. Rajgopalan. But now that he is back, Shekharji, you have a very different lens that you look at when some of these things happen. I'm sure our viewers would like to know how you saw that visit, sir.
Well, there have been a lot of phone calls between White House and our Prime Minister's residence in Delhi, and as well as Kremlin. A lot of back channel things are happening, and that involves the situation in Ukraine. America is actually expecting Prime Minister Modi to use his good offices with Russian President Putin to see that things are de-escalated and if some kind of a ceasefire can be worked out. And my information is Doval was in Russia. Before that, he was in America. Of course, in America, he met his counterpart, and that had a lot to do with many of the defense and other collaborations that are going on between America and India on several fields, particularly relating to technology transfer, joint research, joint operation in some strategic areas, and ways and measures to contain China in their own way. I mean, that has been ongoing dialogue. But soon after that, we had a conference in Moscow of countries that have shares border with Afghanistan, and India was invited, and India has had certain reservations about Afghanistan since the Taliban took over. We resumed humanitarian aid to Afghanistan. We shipped wheat to Afghanistan because Afghanistan has been facing severe shortage of food, and those shipments were sent through Pakistan. Now the trucks laden with wheat went through Pakistan to reach Afghanistan, and other medical supplies have also been going from India to Afghanistan. And the situation in Afghanistan is quite precarious. And also our concern is, our worries are rather more related to that the happenings in Afghanistan should not have a fallout on our Kashmir border. Of course, Pakistan is now in a severe economic crisis. It's no more in a position to undertake any military adventurism, of whatever kind. And with their difficulties in negotiating a package from the International Monetary Fund, one can sense the kind of anxiety that is there in the establishment, particularly the ministerial establishment, with IMF insisting on they cut back on the military expenses, military expenditure. So that's what's happening in Pakistan. But what is interesting that we gather in Moscow is, all the national security advisors of all the countries, Tajikistan, all those countries which are bordering Afghanistan, they had a meeting in Moscow, and after that, the President Putin met all these NSAs. But his meeting with NSA, particularly with our national security advisor Ajit Doval, I'm told that President Putin waived off his other aides, excepting the interpreter, and they spent more than 55 minutes one-on-one just with the interpreters, and where I think a proposal how to bring about ceasefire in Ukraine was taken up. We do not know the contours of that, what kind of a peace formula it could be, what kind of truce it be. Of course, you have seen Germany being forced to send their Leopard tanks. We have seen America also promising more of the sophisticated aircraft. But I mean, America can transfer anything, but it cannot transfer the immediate know-how to handle these things, because even to send their latest aircraft, they will need first to train the Ukraine pilots. That's all going to take a long time. And even that's the case with sophisticated Leopard tanks, which are used by German forces. Now, on one hand, the West is trying to signal that they are backing up Ukraine in full way, and your Ukrainian president was the other day in London, met with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, and again he pleaded for arms and weapons and aircraft, whatnot. But at the same time, I think America realizes that this battle cannot go on, and they've had to look askance at India's oil deal with Russia, which continues, which has to a great extent help us contain inflation and keep the prices of crude prices, fuel prices at one level, rather somehow keep it at a level. Otherwise, things would have gone haywire for us. At the same time, I think there is a serious effort going on, which I do not know what shape it's going to take. I believe there could be an announcement soon, probably with Prime Minister Modi himself undertaking, some kind of an initiative, getting Putin and Biden and other Western leaders to agree on some kind of a formula. But one thing is clear, I think it is that formula would require that Ukraine, refrains from openly, siding with NATO and not allowing the NATO forces on its soil, and in turn Russia not pursuing its aggression further. I do not know what's the formula, but definitely Ukraine situation was discussed between Doval and Putin, and about India's role. Sir, but very interestingly, I mean, coincidentally or with a purpose, I do not know, 2 days ago we heard statements from the US State Departments, very pertinent observation saying that India can persuade President Putin to end the war, openly acknowledging the fact that the India has a tremendous influence on Putin.
Shekharji, you touch upon so many things that I felt compelled that I need to interrupt just for 1 minute, and I'll come back to you. I'll yield the floor back to you, sir. It is believed that Prime Minister Modi told Putin, "Don't bomb civilian targets." And this message went about 3-4 months ago. If you remember, one hospital was damaged, a shelter was damaged, and so on and so forth. And after that, not much. And these are small things, but I think saying it in the right way makes a big difference. So I yield the floor back to you. But before that, viewers, please like this program. You know that we don't waste your time. And Shekharji has done tremendous amount of research. I just have his notes here in front of me. I'm just bowled over as to how much he has prepared for this program in the short time that I gave him. So please like this video, let it go viral. And back to you, Shekharji. Thank you.
Thank you, Shekhar. But what my worries are, President Zelensky himself needs to do a lot more, because he is still looking at the West to provide him a solution. And increasingly, you can see the problems that the Europe is facing, problems that UK is facing. Barring America, everybody seems to be having problem in meeting energy shortages, and with the kind of pressures that the economy is facing, with recession appearing on the horizon, as it were. And I think if an offer is made, I think Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, should grab it. And at the same time, as you mentioned, yes, there is a change in the Russian strategy, because that kind of bombing has not happened. That's absolutely correct. And at the same time, in some areas, they have even pulled back their troops. Some people called it a tactical retreat, but others say that, well, barring the region where the Russian-speaking forces are there, and where there is a Russian-speaking population, even in those areas, some of the areas Russian troops have pulled back to their previous position. So obviously, there's something is happening on the ground. Something is happening. I mean, people are working on the telephone lines to move forward. So we'll have to wait and see what will happen in the next couple of weeks.
Shekharji, I forgot to update one other information data point on what you said about engagement of India with Afghanistan. Two things happened, and one of the things was mentioned about a few months ago by Major Madan Kumar. What used to happen was, the wheat trucks, there were also trucks carrying simple things like Britannia biscuits, and they were going through Pakistan, and Pakistan actually was trying to steal some of those things. I hate to say this. They were also putting a lot of unreasonable restrictions. For example, they said that these trucks cannot have anything to do with it, like the India is sending food to Afghanistan. India said, fine. Then they said every box that had things such as, like, let us say there's a big 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot box inside which you've got all these, Britannia biscuit packets. They said on this cardboard box, you cannot have the signage of Britannia. Then they said on the individual wrapper of each of these biscuit packets, you cannot have the name of the company. Such silly thing. And you know what India did? All they did was they said to the manufacturers, put your logo on the biscuit itself, because ultimately that's what the person is going to eat. That's when they'll remember us. So that's one thing. Second thing is, Afghanistan has invited India to finish the two bridges, I think it is dams that India has been working on. One of them is very essential. It's on the Kabul River. That can really help Afghanistan wean itself away from opium, which is their main crop today. Unfortunate, it's a very different, hilly, rocky, harsh region with extreme weather climates. They have a lot of natural resources, but beyond that, as a human being, I think India is trying to look at them that way. Shekharji, if you would like to add something, please feel free, sir. After that, we can go to questions.
So, sir, Pakistan is also having problems with Afghanistan.
Oh, yes.
Despite, and recently there were clashes on the Pakistan-Afghanistan border also.
Yes,
So,
yes.
which goes to show that things are on the boil there. And I cannot but just recall the fact that the joke going around in Pakistan, and also I think quoted by one of our former raw official, was that only Modi can save Pakistan, probably with an economic package. This is the joke. Probably, if the IMF imposes so many conditions, perhaps our condition would be just drop Kashmir, stop terrorism. That's all. Maybe we can help them too. This could be the message.
Yes, indeed. And now let's take up some questions. We have a fair amount of questions for you, Shekharji. Magnet Ranga wants to know, by constantly attacking Adani Group, isn't Congress antagonizing industrial and business houses in India by giving up anti-business opinion?
Definitely, I would agree with Rangaji, because I mean, what is happening is the Congress is a centrist party. Rather, it was supposed to be a centrist party. We saw Prime Minister Narasimha Rao brought economic liberalization. And after that, the Congress has always been following the middle of the road, the middle path, as Narasimha Rao would say. But when Sonia Gandhi took over in after they came to power, and it was a Sonia Gandhi run government, it gradually things began to shift towards the left. And with Rahul Gandhi taking charge, more of radical left views started gaining ground. And in the result, you have a Congress party which has actually had, which brought the economic liberalization in the early 90s, and subsequently falling victim to its own propaganda, which, in order to counter Modi, has been attacking all kinds of business. And when the fact that some of the Congress governments have done business, and Adani's fortunes, we discussed it last time, it grew during the period when Rajiv Gandhi's time, and subsequently also. So, and even today, you have had governments in Rajasthan. Why Kamal Nath as Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh? They have had best of relations with these businesses, particularly Adani. I think what will have to be understood is that, even said the other day, I mean, it was being mentioned. Now, talking about LIC, LIC being influenced by this government to put more money on Adani. They had put money in other times also on other companies. And LIC had also had to sustain loss. In the case of, say, Jindal Group, the case of JPs, there are other groups also. So this has happened before. But this particular case is different. The simple fact, And today I happened to talk to a central minister because there have been criticism that why were so many airports given to Adani? Because this is a charge that was made inside the parliament too. Because when this the decision was taken to allow more airports to be privatized and given to companies to handle them for their expansion, for their modernizing these airports, the the condition, first condition was that only those companies should bid, those who have had experience in handling airports. Now, incidentally, there were no more than 2 companies or 3 companies who have had that experience. Because in order to have an experience, you must have a first opportunity. And when that proposal was put before the committee of secretaries, they decided that if we were to put that condition, that would lead to cartelization of companies which have that experience, and between them they could decide that this is the price we will quote, and the government would have to hand over to them because that's the only condition. So it was decided we will not allow that. Now the question is asked, then if you were doing away with that condition, why did you not put a cap on the number of airports to be given to a person? But what I gather, from what the minister told me was they did not wish to put a cap, not because they wanted Adani to buy, win all the bid. The fact is, Adani has so far when it comes to infrastructure projects, he has had that energy and the dynamism and got many projects completed on time, particularly infrastructure projects. And they didn't want to put the cap because the number of airports that need to be expanded and developed as part of connectivity, as part of infrastructure, rebuilding of the infrastructure or even creating a new infrastructure, that needed that companies which have the drive and energy and resources, there is no cap on them, because when you are looking at developing at least 50 airports, so you cannot say one company will not do more than 2-3 airports, because that would be till they finish this, they will come to those airports then to be developed. This is the logic I was given. And as to business companies paying parties in power, I mean, at least in the case of BJP, they pay the party. Earlier, they were paying individual leaders in the Congress, because individual Congress leaders never wanted funds to go to the party, because their clout in the party depends on how much individually they collect funds. This is to do with the finance model adopted by the parties, the BJP and the Congress. So that's the question apart. Therefore, of course, this is also a wake-up call for Adani's. He probably need to be less ambitious. At the same time, sir, there is a sense in the government, which I could gather, though they are not willing to openly say it, that this is a lot to do with the corporate warfare on a global scale. Because Adani is a global company. So they are having enemies because they are able to outbid some of these big foreign companies outside India, particularly say in Israel, that Israeli port which went, the second company was a Chinese company. So it's quite possible there are companies who are, there is a corporate war going on, and they would do all to stop Adani this way or that way. So that's the part. The government is not going to get into this, but it is also important. The government has also sent a signal to the people who are regulators. They have to do their job. They have to be on the guard. They have to maintain vigil. That message has gone out. I mean, at least the finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman ji has made 2-3 statements inside the house and outside the house, saying that regulators will have to do the job and the government is not going to stand in the way of them. So long as the projects are being completed on time, so long as the debt is being serviced in its in a proper way, I don't think there will be any big worry in terms of a political worry for the Prime Minister regarding the projects being handled by Adani. Otherwise, I think it's going to be an electoral battle. It will be a battle of perception. As the Prime Minister said, people who are making these charges against me will have to realize that the people who vote for me are not going to believe it. See, that's the kind of confidence that the Prime Minister has in his persona and his appeal. Because he says it has not to do with what his government is doing for them in terms of welfare schemes, the implementation of welfare schemes.
Thank you so much. And before we go to the next question, I should add one small nugget of information. See, I was requested to come and present or have a book release function in a small town. I mean, a small town relative to like the big four, a town called Belagavi. Belagavi used to be Belgaum. It's on the border of Karnataka and Maharashtra. and I was in Coimbatore, so there is no direct flight. But because of Udan scheme, where I believe that companies who are running airlines, they get a hefty discount to go to some of these underserved airports. You know what I found, Shekharji? This flight was from I went from Coimbatore to Hyderabad. From Hyderabad, there was a flight to Belgaum. That flight was full, sir. It was a full flight. There were only few airport planes landing and taking off from Belgaum. It's a beautiful airport. Then on the way back, there was no flight in the morning for the following day for me to get back to Coimbatore. So what they did, the organizers did very clever. 50 kilometers south is Hubli Dharwad Airport. So they had somebody drive me to that airport. From there, I flew to Bengaluru. From Bengaluru, I went to Coimbatore. Again, full flight. I can proudly say myself that I have landed and taken off from every airport that is there in Karnataka. Bengaluru, Mysore, Hubli, as well as Belagavi. I'm sure there are more coming up. And this was all done in the last few years. You look at Mysore Airport, you look at Hubli Airport, you look at Belagavi Airport, top of the line, very, very fresh, newly minted, excellent airports. So all this is happening. We don't seem to understand how many levels this government is functioning. I just want to tip my hat to the government. Next question,
Yes,
please.
sir. Yeah, you are indeed right. And the only thing that can be held against the Prime Minister is that he wants everything to happen fast. Because from his point of view, we cannot delay any further when it comes to infrastructure expansion, new expressways, new highways, new connectivity, rapid, mass rapid rail transit services. Today, he inaugurated the one section of the Delhi-Mumbai expressway, and this is going to cut short that distance, I mean, the time involved in traveling between Delhi and Jaipur to begin with, at least by couple of hours. So maybe you can do it in 3 hours. And once I mean, your Vande Bharat is run between Delhi and Jaipur very soon. The idea is to travel between Delhi and Jaipur in 2.5 hours. Sir, businessmen will understand the importance of time. Those who have to travel work will understand. And the Prime Minister is, seized by this, I would say, a frenzy to get things done at whatever cost, and so that India is actually on a growth path. Other than that, I can't see that, he getting into some small deals, because, see, in terms of resources, the party has no problem. And I don't think Prime Minister himself, given his track record in Gujarat, is bothered about these things. What is more driving him is, no matter what, if you have to bend rules, beg, borrow, steal, get the projects going, so that there is visibility for the people to appreciate and understand what this government is trying to do.
Next question, please. Karthik Vishwanathan wants to know, the toolkit had started its dirty work, it seems. New York Times has published a front page news item as to how democracy is dark in India and other stuff. Will this affect the chances of BJP? These are all rag magazines. You also have things similar to that in India also. People are no longer consuming news from TV or from newspapers alone. They are consuming, like, for example, there are right now 1,117 people watching. By the way, I hope all of you have liked this video, because if you did, I would have 2,500 people watching. Thank you again. If you have not liked this video, please like. The point I'm trying to make is, we can quickly come to the bottom of a topic because we are loose, flexible, and we know where the source of information is. Whereas a newspaper only comes once a day. A TV news program comes only once or twice a day. So they have some strong limitations. We don't have that. That is the appreciation that you show by coming and watching us instead of watching the main channels. Thank you so much for that. Let's go to the next question. Sir, you want to answer that one, Karthik Vishwanathan's question?
Well, I think that a decade ago, we all would be worried about what Washington Post said or New York Times said or what BBC reported. We would always get into some kind of a self-flagellation. We would blame, this is how we are written about this. But today, I think more and more young Indians, they understand the perception that is unavoidable in certain instances, but at the same time, they are also able to sense bias in the way these outlets look at India. Therefore, I think there is no more tension, as it were. New York Times can say what it wants to say, or Washington Post can do whatever it wants. But at the time when their own countries are, in trouble, when their own countries are facing serious issues, instead of applying, some standard on us, rather they should, as they say, apne andar jhako, when it look within, is kind of thing. And I can see that many people are no longer, because a decade or two earlier, we would all get what some paper, New York Times, said would appear on the front page of Indian newspapers. Can you think of a situation, New York Times carrying a piece saying what the Times of India thinks about what happened in America? So I think there is a lot of awakening, as it were, so that the people realize that, look, of course, these organizations claim they are very professional and they are trying to portray a picture which they think is not being written about in the Indian media, but that's a different story. Okay, they can write what they want, but we know what is happening to us and what is not happening to us.
Pranav Prakash Tiwari wants to know, how is BJP doing in Chhattisgarh?
We haven't heard much about what the BJP plans to do, but Chhattisgarh is under now Bhupesh Baghel, who has been, he is now the one-man show in Chhattisgarh, and he has been using the resources of Chhattisgarh to help Congress in different states. So there is a lot of anti-incumbency there. I think the BJP will reveal their plans for Chhattisgarh once they are done with Karnataka and Tripura, and we are going to see changes in the BJP setup in Chhattisgarh, and where the bottom line approach is, get more and more young people, fresh faces to handle, to connect with the voters and present a new re-energized BJP in Chhattisgarh.
Next question, please. Karthik Viswanathan again, happy that Shekharji mentioned civic issues. I am from Bangalore and part of some citizenry groups. Civic infra is collapsing. Karthik, one small add-on to that before I hand the mic over to Shekharji. Bangalore sits on soft sand. You have to first, fortify the foundation before you can put some infrastructure projects on it. Remember how long it took for that Hebbal to new airport road to be built, because they had to actually first strengthen the foundation. So there are some challenges like that. Over to you, Shekharji.
Indeed, you are right, Shreyaji. Bangalore has been sitting on this problem for a long time, and there has been haphazard development where new plots have been acquired, and a lot of landfills upon which you have had the huge constructions taking place, and one good rain, then whole Bangalore seems to be floating. And previously we used to only talk about the traffic jams because the roads were narrow, they could take the traffic. But today this problem, you have drainage issues, and also some very appalling things that have happened. Look at this, some schools are run by the local municipal corporation. Conditions there, I don't know, no party which is in power seems to have done any good. And today, voters in Bangalore in particular are facing a situation for them. The Congress and the BJP, the people who represent them, they look alike. And
Yes.
sometimes they are just plain labels, and there is nothing to look forward to any election. Because the same lot comes, or the same lot gets divided and assumes a new, it's like an amoeba. And they feel that nothing much is happening. Of course, in Bangalore, you have a very strong, citizenship vigil groups who are pointing out these issues, particularly the way the infra is collapsing, and the way, even other issues, whether it is policing, whether it is condition of schools, condition of roads, these are all issues that are, coming to the fore, the transport services. But at the same time, I think if it's up to the people to, vote for a stable government to give stability, because after all, you get the government, you choose the kind of people you elect. If there is a hung house, or if you are giving one party a super majority, then that party has, because you remember when we discussed Karnataka, I mentioned a figure of 122, because many leaders have told me, for a stable government to function, at least it should have at least 122 or some kind, that's the figure they keep saying. Because our problem is the borderline cases. It just 2 seats more than the halfway mark, then the instability sets in. or you will have to have a coalition, say, with a party like Janata Dal Secular, whether it is Congress or BJP. Let one party get complete majority, and let them, because they always, if they are always voting almost a hung house.
Now, two things before we go to the next question. Viewers, one of the things I observed, I had one specialist come and tell in Bengaluru how to build a regenerating ecosystem. And he has actually built this like a square plot of land, and that is very close to the airport. When I find the details, I'll share it with you. He was actually on our channel. And you have to dig up to 40 to 80 feet into the ground, because up until that layers are all completely corrupted by the fertilizers and all the other things we've been putting in. So you have to reach there and then bring out that sand, and then from there you can build a self-sustaining ecosystem. Number one. Number two, how many of you have noticed this 3,000-year-old temple on your way from the airport to Hebal? There is one. I believe it is a Hanuman temple. The driver pointed out to me, because around that are all swanky buildings. This temple looked like it's going to fall anytime. It's 3,000 years old. Look, so many of you are billionaires because of the real estate boom in Bengaluru. Why can't you try and see if you can maintain that temple? 3,000 years old. I rest my case. Next question, sir. Rajiv Dhya wants to know, Prashant Bhushan's contempt of SC is also in Nazeer's tweet. Well, I think, sir, go ahead, sir. I think he's talking about what happened when Prashant Bhushan was pulled up in front of Supreme Court.
Yeah, he has been, of course, he was let off with a warning, and sometimes, the judiciary feels no point in, making a big deal out of this, because these people, they are not going to, change. And they have been constantly speaking against the judiciary in utter contempt. I mean, we can make out it's trying to actually browbeat the judiciary in the sense like, look, if you give a judgment which is different from what we want, then we will, rake up all these things with you. And that is one of the reasons why Prashant Bhushan has had problems in the Supreme Court, because his pails are no longer, attended with that seriousness which they used to be earlier. Of course, he does take up some causes which have, which does, involve the judiciary seriously examining the matter, but it is not in that frequency with which it used to happen earlier.
Next question, please. Magnet Ranga again. Sir, the appointments of governors under Congress weren't free of controversies. Examples of Kumudben Joshi in the undivided AP when Sri NTR was CM, HR Bharadwaj in Karnataka when Mr. Yediyurappa was CM, and how these CMs were treated by these governors cannot be forgotten, or the case of midnight appointment of Jagadambika Pal as CM in UP by Ramesh Bhandari over the ruling Kalyan Singh. Why isn't the BJP taking up such examples to counter the Congress?
Well, these cases are well known, and of course, the BJP spokesperson do mention, the instances where Rajbhavan was completely converted into, the Congress headquarters in various states. That has been there. Even in Parliament, sir, 2 days ago when the Prime Minister was referring to, you are accusing us of, trampling upon the states, power of the states. He recalled all the occasions when, how many times the Article 356 was invoked to dismiss the elected government, starting from Nehru's dismissal of EMS Namboodiripad government in 1959. That was the first time a Congress
Indira
government
Gandhi was a Congress party president.
Elected government, the first elected communist government in the world was dismissed because Nehru didn't like it. So, when it comes to this, it is there. But then, sir, our system is such. The governors play an important role. If there is a full-fledged majority, there is no issue. But where the states, again, as I mentioned, you are going to have a fractured mandate, then the role of the Rajbhavan, role of governor becomes very crucial in forming a stable government. And no ruling party is going to let go an opportunity to have somebody whom it trusts in Rajbhavan.
Yes, indeed. And now let's go to the next question. Simple Jack wants to know, how can a judiciary who is supposed to lead by example indulge in so much nepotism? 12 out of 32 judges are related to other judges or political leaders. Good point. It didn't happen yesterday. It's been happening for a long time. Take it away, sir.
Well, that is the reason why the National Judicial Commission was thought of. That in order, you will have to streamline the way the judicial appointments are made. But then the entire judiciary, joined hands and they threw out that bill that was passed by Parliament, and almost 15 state legislatures had given endorsement. So, well, the debate is still continuing, and of course, of late, one can see that some kind of a truce has been effected between the judiciary and the government, and where probably there will be more, I would say, discussions between the government and judiciary, how to go about this, because the judiciary is still sensitive to, allowing any return of the National Judicial Commission kind of thing back. That they are, very sensitive. But at the same time, probably some discussions can happen where things can be more, there can be more transparency in the method of selection. And as far as this nepotism issue is concerned, there are numerous instances, whether at the state level or at the central level, and this has been a matter which talked about in the bar and even in the bench. I mean, on the bench.
Next question, please. Gaurav Chaudhary wants to know, as a co-in charge, can Annamalai do magic in favor of BJP game in Karnataka, where he did service as an IPS officer?
Well, a co-in charge will be assisting the in charge, that is Dharmendra Pradhan himself. Now, the idea to deploy Annamalai has, two things, two purposes. One, BJP central leadership thinks that Annamalai is an important leader, and he's also a national leader who will take care of, who can be deployed as and when the BJP leadership feels his services are needed. That is one. So therefore, asking him to join in the efforts of the BJP to win the Karnataka elections is a very significant thing, and recognition of Annamalai's, expertise. And though he is very new to politics, he quit IPS and then joined BJP for a full political life. But the fact that he has been interested also to do with the fact that he was one of the very successful IPS officer at Karnataka, knows Kannada language, and has a lot of contacts there, which can be of great help to for the BJP's election management.
ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರು. Next. Okay, that brings us to a close of today's program. And Shekharji, as always, a pleasure listening to you, sir. You bring so many nuggets when we listen to you that often is, not even looked at by the MSM. I'm not faulting them. They have their own compulsions, TRP and what have you. But viewers, thank you for your support. We'll be back again next Saturday, time permitting. Shekharji is really busy these days. If not Saturday, we'll definitely try to do it 1 or 2 days this way or that way. But you guys are steadfast in your support of us. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Shekharji, namaskar, and we'll see you again very soon, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.